Happy peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you this layout that I created using my January Cocoa Daisy memory keeping kits. This particular layout has an emphasis on stamping. I am going to fast forward through this part because I fussy cut these hearts out of this exclusive sheet from Cocoa Daisy, and my plan is to make little slits in those pink lines on the crepe paper and slit those in and then stamp over them with the stamp that says happiness is, and then there's a little box, and then I'm going to handwrite in what the happiness is. I will apologize for the length of this video as this is abnormally long for me. I don't normally create process videos that are of this length. However, I wanted to show to you that not every layout comes together in the blink of an eye. I do struggle with elements of layouts at times, and this is one of the layouts that I particularly struggled with. I did my usual, and you can see here I pulled all of the elements that had pink and yellow and gray in them, but when I started out this layout, I actually did not intend for there to be a whole lot of yellow in the layout. The yellow was going to be more of punctuations of color here and there rather than one of the dominant colors in the layout. So I knew I wanted to use this very busy piece of pattern paper as my background, and that I wanted to insert these hearts into those little sort of paint blobs there as a way of sort of just doing something a little bit different with this pattern paper. But I also had these pictures of my daughter that were what I was going to use with this, and I needed a way to be able to make them stand out against the busyness of the pattern paper. So while I wanted to tell a story, I also wanted the pattern paper to stand out on its own as well. So I used that white background to sort of create the canvas upon the canvas in which I was creating. So this is where I just, what I did was I used my pencil and I just drew the outline, or the sides, the right and left side of the heart, so that I had the right width that I was going to draw for the lines. Drew the lines in pencil and then used my X-Acto blade to cut out a top line and a bottom line that just created these little sort of ledges that I could pull out with my X-Acto blade and slide these hearts in underneath. It's something a little bit different and unusual, and I wanted to do something more than just use the standard piece of paper as it was. And I could have just put the hearts as they were on top of those little sort of paint blobs, but I thought it was kind of fun to have that different effect of the hearts seated in the paper itself. And then later in the video, you'll see where I go in with the stamp, one of the stamps from the exclusive set of stamps from Cocoa Daisy, and just stamp that sentiment that I mentioned earlier. You'll also see that I have another stamp. It's a little bird, and he's holding a coffee cup or a mug, and I knew I wanted to stamp that in the corner, in the top left corner of the page as well. So as I'm going, I am erasing that pencil line that helped me create my grid marks. And now I'm going to stamp directly onto the piece of pattern paper and stamp that little bird. I always like to test stamp first, especially if I haven't used the stamp previously. So you'll always see I have a piece of scratch paper that I do that test stamping on. Now you can see in this video, and I know with the depth it's hard to see things in video sometimes, but the bird on the pattern paper directly, it was very hard to pick up that he was a bird and that he was holding a coffee cup. So later on in the video, I will actually go ahead and stamp him on a piece of white paper and fussy cut around him just so that he's a little bit more prominent. And the way that I end up working the color scheme, he definitely stands out much more and becomes a part of the design rather than just this sort of faded element. So this is where I have another stamp from the stamp set, and I am going to stamp directly onto the pattern paper and the hearts. So the stamps actually are not stamped onto a flat surface because you can see that the hearts are fussy cut, and so I use that pink line that's going through the heart as where I'm going to line up where the box is going to go, that I will then handwrite the different things that we are happy about. And I did 3 of these, again, for the trio of things that I like. And I just cleaned off the stamp and put that away. So here are the 2 pictures. They are pictures that I changed to black and white, and the heart on the Valentine's envelope I kept red just for a little punctuation of color. I pulled out the elements, as I said previously, that have yellow and pink in them, and I initially wanted to use that yellow heart, and my thought was that I would actually turn it into a shaker pocket, but it just looked like a big blob of yellow in the center of this pink, and I couldn't pull in other yellow the way that I was working to try and tie things together. So you can see there I abandoned that. That's the vellum, heart cut vellum that comes with the kit, and I thought I could incorporate that, but I was kind of disappointed in that you lost seeing the actual depth of the vellum, and so I decided I could save that for another project. I tried the vellum, the XO washi tape that came from Crate Paper in the collection, but again, that got lost because there's already a lot of pink in it and it didn't need any more pink. And then when I thought I would use these epoxy hearts I saw the background, and I thought that the background would look cool as a backing for my pictures, but the pinks and the reds are very different hues from the pinks that I have in the pattern paper, so I decided that that wasn't going to work for me either, and you'll see in a minute that I pull those out. But I found these yellow and pink flowers, and while hearts are my main sort of decorative element in this piece, I really liked the way that the flowers just added a little bit of a punctuation of yellow to give a pop of variety of color there and kind of capture your eye and make you want to look further into the layout. And then I'm just sorting through some of the other elements that I pulled that are pink and yellow and trying to find something that will give some contrast to these pictures yet tie into the remainder of the layout. And you can see I struggle with that. That's one of the pocket cards, and I really liked that, but with the punctuation of yellow, but what I couldn't make work was the way that the layout was going to be organized and tie in some other elements to that. It also didn't leave me a whole lot of room for journaling, so I thought maybe I'd use it as a paper layer behind the pictures, which I did like, but I really liked that card and didn't want to cover up the words, so that gave me the idea to look for a piece of yellow paper. And that's where I get drawn to this yellow vellum from Pretty Little Studio. I absolutely love this yellow vellum, and I was able to use it and showcase the hearts, but not have them be yet another prominent heart on my layout. I wanted to lift the picture up off the page just a little bit for a little bit of dimension, as I've been doing a lot of lately. It's sort of one of my characteristic moves now these days. So I just have a little bit of foam that I'll use to raise the picture up. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut this, and then the top has just a little bit of yellow, and I just trim that off so that it's a symmetrical border all the way around the photo. So there is my nice pop of yellow to tie in some color and put some borders around my photos. And then I have this piece of paper, and for some reason I don't like it, or I think I want to do something different, but I will end up going back to that chevron yellow to put behind all of it. I thought maybe some pink would work, but there's already a lot of pink in the layout, and so I didn't want any more pink within that center border there. So as you can see, a lot of time on this video is a lot of indecisiveness and me really trying to find the elements that are going to work best for me, for the layout, for the pictures, and for the ability to tell a story. So here we go back with the yellow, and I had that 6x6 piece from the pocket kit, and then I went and got my 12 by 12 piece from the 12 by 12 kit, because my original intent was that I would do a banner that would go behind the pictures that would pull that together, and or give me a place to put a title. So you can see how I slide that in behind, and that was my original plan with that. Although so what I was doing was trying to maintain the horizontal lines that were moving across the page that were started with those pink lines in the pattern paper. But it looked choppy, and it didn't look like a cohesive whole. So I got distracted, which is why I ended up turning the camera off, but you'll see that I did go with that yellow chevron, and I like the way that ties it together and adds another layer behind the paper, but it still allows me a spot to put a title and some journaling. So I pulled one of the hearts out and decided to use that for decoration, and that that washi that I originally went with and abandoned, I have pulled out once again, because again I want a little bit of pink in that yellow block there, and so I find a couple of elements from the die pack kit and then that washi that will work perfectly to just give that subtle splash of pink and tie the pattern paper background in with that sort of photo block there. So I wanted a title, and I pulled out these letters that come with the kit, and I decided to use love. But I really liked the way that the hot pink behind the letters sort of made the letters stand out, and that afforded me the ability to move that banner that I had there and just tuck it into the picture, because there's a lot of stuff in the picture, and none of the stuff is really relevant, and that covered up some of the sort of more eye distracting stuff so that you could focus on some other things there. So I got rid of the original piece of washi and put a longer piece so that I could have it be the length of the title there, and use that extra heart that I had fussy cut as the O. And then I knew that Notes was going to be, Love Notes was going to be the title, so pulled out the Evalicious stickers, letter stickers, and put Notes in underneath. So there I've got my pictures, I've got my title, and I have room to journal to the left of Love Notes, but I really wanted to incorporate that yellow heart into it, and I felt like I had a block within a block, and I wanted to make that block a little less of a harsh transition from your eye from that pink to the white and yellow. And so I will go back and I will actually incorporate that yellow doily heart. Now, what bothers me about that yellow doily heart is that it is not a heart. It's not enough of a heart. There isn't enough delineation for me down the center between the two halves to actually, it is a heart, but it's more of a illusion of a heart than a heart to me. And so I fix that by putting white paper on top of it. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Now, again, in order to help soften that border and sort of pull things together, I used my pen and just drew a black line around that block within the block, and that ties it in together. But you can see here how if I use that a white heart, so I just traced it to give me a size. And originally what I did was I used some pink watercolor, so you can see my watercolor palette there, and I tried coloring the heart that I fussy cut out. You can see it to the right there, pink, but it looked horrible. It didn't need pink. It actually just needed the white, and writing on top of the pink was actually really tough to do. So I cut out a second heart, and I cut out the painting of that heart because, again, the video was long enough and you didn't need to sit here any longer. So that white heart looks more heart-shaped to me, and so it then sort of ties together that doily that I really wanted, and gives it more of a defined heart shape. And maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I needed it to be more heart-shaped. And then I'm going to outline that and write in the heart, and that will have my journaling. So there's that black line. And again, it just sort of pulls everything together because I've got those black and white pictures. It needed a little bit more black in the layout. So that, my friends, is how I use the stamps from the Cocoa Daisy kit. And so you can see that little bird that I colored there and fussy cut, and I painted him. You'll see I'll get my paints out in a minute. Actually, it's a mermaid marker. I just water it down a little bit and color the bird in yellow. So that's me using my January Cocoa Daisy memory keeping kits. There's some close-ups to follow. I, by the way, have reached 1,500 subscribers, so I am going to do a giveaway coming up soon. Thanks for joining me. Stay tuned. Take care.